It's already dinner. It's true. It kind of is already dinner, but don't remind me. I'm a bit hung home. I'm here to help. We got started. We're kicking off this fresh race. Do not know these guys' PBs. I'm going to pull up the PBs. It has no major glitches. That means that the glitches that you not like your glitch. That's okay. But seriously, no glitches to break out of bounds or do anything completely crazy. But however, there's a lot of really interesting tech and tricks that go into this speedrun. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Eastern Palace. Now, let's see what these people's PBs are, because I did not know I was doing commentary until 5 minutes ago. So let's pull that up. Let's see who is the favorite here. And we can go from there. Hopefully you all have been enjoying this tournament so far. We've got Parisian Player here with, let's see, a solid 128.57. Real good time. Better than my own for sure. And then I'm going to call this person G3 because I don't know what else that is, with a 126. So should have a really good race here. Two really solid runners, both sub 130. You know, a lot of small things could end up being the difference maker in this. You know, there's a lot of major mistakes in this run that can cost several minutes. So we will see if Parisian can pull off the upset of G3. It should be a really, really awesome match. Here we have Escape, where Link has to go rescue Zelda from her prison, take her out, and then the game isn't over, I guess. There's more stuff that you have to do. I don't really know what. It's all in Japanese. I assume something to do with the giant pig at the end, but I don't have time to read, so. Nice solid strats by both runners, killing that blue guard with the key in one spin, using the chest as kind of a support to get a double spin in there. You'll notice these runners may be moving faster or slower depending on how well they are pumping. Pumping is a strategy where you mash basically a perpendicular direction when you're moving left or right in order to basically boost Link's speed. It has to do with the way that Link's movement oscillates between 1 and 2 pixels of movement per frame. And so essentially they're able to kind of sustain that higher amount when they're moving left to right. If they were to pump going right or down, they would lose time, so they'll only be doing it in those directions. And we're synced up here on time, so Parisian Player looks like maybe in a little bit behind G3. Both of them going into the ball and chain guard. This is kind of an intense moment for some runners. G3 actually, both of them going for pot strat. It's kind of surprising for a 126 and 28 runner, but much safer for a tournament race. So the ball and shade guard takes 8 slashes with the sword, or 2 pots, so the pot does 4 slashes worth of damage. But the chain guard actually does 1 heart of damage per hit, and you only start off with 3, so definitely a lot safer to go ahead and at least do 1 pot there, not having to risk a possible death and escape and already being behind by several minutes. So only loses a second or 2, so both players opting to be a bit safer here. The escape is definitely an annoying section for most runners. It's something that they've had to do a million times, and so it can be frustrating. It's about 6 minutes long, can be a little bit shorter, but it has a lot of different time saves in it, a lot of small different RNG factors that can cause kind of a variation of a few seconds here that we'll see coming up, especially dealing with the rats and some of the dark rooms in the second half of Escape. G3 coming out to a couple second lead here as he heads to push the bookshelf and enter the second half of Escape. Playing pretty solidly so far, I would say. Escape, definitely the hardest part of the run to commentate, because it's not really that interesting. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But don't worry, the run builds. It builds like a nice mixtape that you got from your girlfriend. You know, it starts off with some ballads, but then we're gonna ramp it up. We're going to get some rock out there. We're going to be really just busting it out soon, don't you worry. Here's one of the first parts of RNG, this rope room with these snakes. Parisian taking 2 hits there. G3 getting through fairly solidly, about a room ahead now. Unfortunately, you just kind of have to react to the patterns you get here. And G3 going in a few rooms, there will be a rat that has a key, and it can go all the way to the top left of the screen. It can run right towards him, and that can be the difference between a couple seconds here in the escape as well. Getting a decent pattern from the rat, not having to chase him up to the top left of the screen. Let's see what Parisian gets. Parisian getting basically the best pattern, the rat running right at him, so both runners getting pretty fair RNG here. G3 having a really nice escape, I think on pace for like a low 550, like a 552, 553, which is really good. Better than my best ever, I'd say. Yeah, look at that. 551 escape, really solid from G3. Really strong start to the race for him. Parisian coming in at about a 6-minute escape, probably a little less than he would have, a little more time than he would have wanted, but still pretty solid as well. We'll see if these runners get the Sank Heart. This is technically a safety. It only costs about 3 seconds. It makes a couple of bosses in the run a lot easier, specifically Helmasaur and some others, where that extra heart can be the difference between having to go back through a dungeon because you died to a boss or not. I assume both runners will be grabbing it. Yep. And now we'll be heading to our first pendant dungeon, which is Eastern Palace, where we'll pick up the bow, and yeah. Also, we will pick up the boots afterwards, which will really change the movement throughout the rest of the run. But right now, we're still set on just walking around Hyrule, having to pump, and, you know, that's okay. Yeah, that G3 time was like 2 seconds faster than my gold. So that was a really, really nice escape from G3. Very, very impressed. One thing that the runners will have to keep an eye on, and this will be something that could come into effect in Eastern, is probably these runners will be doing something called tree rupees. So behind Shrosala, there are a couple chests that have rupees in it. That would be the standard route that a lot of runners would do, because you'll have to pay Kiki to get into the Palace of Darkness once you go to Dark World, 110 rupees. However, there is a RNG setup that was found within the past few years in which you can pull on the trees to on the way to getting the Master Sword to get the required rupees. It is a bit more difficult, a bit more risky, but in order to do that strat, you'll also need to pick up, I think, around 15 to 20 rupees throughout the run, depending on which ones you count as kind of on the route or not. But so these popos that are in the Eastern Palace are on a drop table for dropping rupees, so they will possibly be slashing a couple of those. There's some that will have to kill and hopefully pick up the rupees they need for the rest of the run outside of the tree strat. Here you see G3 entering the Stalfos room and Parisian about to go into it. Here's a strat in which Link's movement is really precisely calculated in order to only require you killing those 2 Stalfoses that have not spawned yet, rather than triggering the spawn point for all 4 of them to spawn and then having to clear the room. Saves, you know, a decent amount of time, probably like 5 seconds, I would say, between that and optimally killing all 4 of them. So good job by both of them executing that. And here we see G3 slashing the popo instead of booming it. The boom, using the boomerang actually saves a decent bit of time, I think like 15 frames. But as I said, they want rupees for their route, so getting that 5-piece really kind of setting him up for later in the run. You don't need that many rupees, but there's also not a ton of opportunities in the light world to get rupees without going out of your way. So Eastern's one of the best. G3 just executing what is known as the big key skip. So the intended route for this room is to kill all of the enemies in the room, and these anti-fairies will disperse, allowing you to trigger that that switch and then get the big key. However, by using Link's iframes and damage boosting into the pot, you are able to pick up the pot and get the big key without having to clear that whole room. Saves a lot of time. I don't even want to estimate because there's a lot of enemies in that room. G3 entering the first dark room now. He has the bow and arrow. He'll be able to go ahead and grab this key. Nice optimal strat, shooting him left. And Parisian player about a room to 2 rooms behind, so still keeping up, even though G3 had that honestly really impressive escape. And Parisian also just loaded on rupees now, 31 rupees. He's a rich man. He doesn't need to worry about rupees for the rest of the run, as long as he executes tree rupees properly. G3 opting to go ahead and just use pots in that room. Probably not a bad idea. There's a lot of different patterns those style coasters can give you, and can be tough to do quickly. And here we go into our first boss fight, Armos. The goal here is to hit one of these ones on the right with only 2 arrows. That way there will be 1 hit from death, and then being able to execute by finishing him off with arrows there at the end. Okay, I think I'm back. Maybe. Hit me up in chat if you can hear this. Sorry about that. My computer decided, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's go ahead and blue screen in the middle of the commentary. So I am reloading the stream right now. No clue what's happening. Maybe you all in chat can update me. We can do this together, fam. Yeah. Parisian's so good he could do it blindfolded. He's done it blindfolded. Wow. Okay. I do not know what I missed there. If you want to let me know, that'd be great. But I am back. Parisian, 43 rupees. Honestly, the richest boy in town. G3 going ahead and entering into desert. Now we have spin. We have the Pegasus boots, or whatever you want to call them. I don't remember what they're actually called in the booklet. They're Pegasus boots in Link's Awakening. But they do allow for obviously much quicker movement. Also, you probably saw spin speed, which is a trick where if you release your spin and hit the A button on the next frame near a ladder, you're able to get the Pegasus boot speed button all directions. It's a really cool trick. It saves a bit of time throughout the rest of the run in various spots. Parisian just going ahead and entering desert now. Probably a good 4 or 5 rooms behind G3 here, who's on a honestly really great pace. Parisian probably a little bit behind the pace he'd like to be at, but still obviously within striking distance. G3 getting a really nice pattern in the cannonball room there. There's a number of different patterns you can get, some which make you slow down, and you did not have to slow down there, which is always really nice. G3 taking an unfortunate bonk, but able to recover. Bonk's always very frustrating in this game. You're trying so hard to push your speed forward as fast as possible. Real easy to clip into different objects and bonk backwards. Can definitely add up overrun if you're like me and bonk all the time. And now we have the Titan's Mitts, which will allow the runners to pick up small rocks. I do not know for a fact that Parisian Player isn't playing blindfolded. I can tell you that. We cannot confirm or deny that he could be playing blindfolded. Here at the end of Desert, you're going to see one of the most difficult bosses. This is really the first big execution / RNG point of the run. Runners will go ahead and bonk the north wall of the boss room, setting up themselves to be able to get a bunch of different arrow hits in on Landmo. But after that, they will not know where the different Landmo worms will spawn. And in fact, even in the first phase, they won't know which direction they will jump. They only know which way they'll spawn. And so this boss is probably the most difficult boss to nail down in an NMG run because of the randomness and the execution. It's a difficult fight to do with arrows. Each one will take 4 arrows to kill, or 8 slashes. And so it's a really imperative for these runners to practice this, just be ready for any different scenario. It can be a big difference maker between runners, either by getting a nice RNG pattern or having good execution as well. And so we could see Parisian make up some time here if G3 has an issue. A really good Landmo is probably about 3 cycles. Let's see, nice. Getting a few less arrows than probably G3 would have liked for the first phase. We'll see how the rest of this goes. Killing the first. We're on the 3rd cycle now. Not getting the best patterns from him. Maybe opening up some room for Parisian to catch up here just a little bit. G3 shooting his sword in frustration with his early 5 cycle. Not too bad, but probably wanted better. Let's look over at Parisian, getting 2 in there, 1 in there, and none in on that worm. The worst thing that can happen is you'd have one of these Landmo worms have no arrows in them, so you can clear the other 2, but still have 4 left, arrows left to get into one worm, and that can cause issues, especially because when it's down to 1 worm, they will shoot a bunch of rocks out from them, not just the ones they are. Parisian pretty much having a fairly similar fight, I believe. He's set to possibly get a 5 cycle here, so not able to optimize the time here. On G3's screen, you're going to see a trick called Fake Flippers. This will save about 6 seconds traversing up to Death Mountain to head up to Hera. We do not have the flippers yet. We won't have them for some time, but if you exit the screen on the same frame as you hit the water, essentially the game thinks that you have flippers and will allow you to swim until you get off. The risk here is if a runner gets hit, they will soft lock. G3 having no issues whatsoever, heading right into that portal and transferring up to go to Death Mountain. Yeah, you can check out in chat Landmo tips and tricks from our boy Blunt Bunny, the expert, the one who has just made so many materials for the community, including a recent task that was like a human theory task. It's really great, and he definitely check out his Landmo tutorial. It's a tough fight, and even top runners, as you can see, these 2 runners really solid times, 128, 126 top times. Having a frustrating Landmo, about 5 cycles each, something they just happens to all of us. Some of us would be even happy with a 5 cycle. It's a toughie. Here we go to Death Mountain. It's named that because you can die on the mountain, because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous mountain. It's not a mountain you go like on a picnic on, you know what I mean? So you got these meatballs falling from the sky, which would make you think a picnic would be, fitting, but it really isn't. G3 loaded up on arrows, still has 13 arrows, which is really nice. That'll save him a bit of time in Aghanim's tower after Hera. And let's see, going ahead, getting the quick warp. With the warps, you can enter certain warps from certain sides and save up to 32 frames. just with the warp animation taking less time. It's one of those small optimizations that makes Link to the Past the game it is. Every room, every little part optimized. Parisian having a bit of issues with these dead rocks. Already down 3 hearts, 4 hearts. Oh no, he's going to go ahead, go inside, kiss the old man, and refill his health all the way down to 1 heart. Definitely a smart move on his part. It sucks as a top runner having to go in and refill your health, but it would suck much more if you died on Death Mountain, for sure. So going ahead, taking the time loss, kind of things you have to do in a race setting that you would not want to do possibly in a RTA attempt. And we have G3 here in the tile room, just chilling out. He was going for the swag item dash with the boomerang to go ahead and possibly stay on the pegs and be able to take a coffee break, but unfortunately missed it. So he's chilling over there. Maybe he wanted to do this. I don't know. Unfortunately, that's the only tile room in the game you have to complete in this run, and feels like it takes forever. Again, smart of Parisian player to have refilled his health. Imagine going through the tile room, getting hit by one of those mini Moldorms, which is very possible, and then having to redo the tile room again. You would have lost, 30 seconds, and that's just something you can't afford against a runner like G3. So nice little strat by G3, hitting both of those into the holes, but also being able to hit the switch at the same time. Hera, a tricky dungeon. It really is easy to lose time, make mistakes in Hera. These mini Moldorms move very randomly, and ooh, nice job by G3 doing the bomb jump without bonking, which severely makes the window a lot tighter that you would need to do to be able to get it, but pro like him, no issue. Hera having a lot of different little parts where you can get chipped away on health. You see G3 already down to 2 hearts of health. Didn't flip the switch, so he can't refill. The mini Moldorms move very randomly. There's a lot of holes to fall in. There's a lot of little places to lose significant time. And then Moldorm, which is a very random fight and also easy to get knocked down on. Ooh, G3, the pressure is on. Down to 1 heart. Can he clutch it out? If he doesn't, he will lose considerable time dying to Moldorm, and will have to reconsider if he should have flipped that switch or not. Moldorm running around fast. Oh, and G3 taking a death on Moldorm, being risky, not flipping the switch in order to give himself more hearts, getting a really bad pattern on the fast cycle, and all of a sudden Parisian player catching up considerably in time. G3 was on a really, really solid pace up to that point. Unfortunately, playing very risky, down to 2 hearts, still decided not to flip the switch, and now he's paying for it. He is actually behind, and Parisian player takes the lead. It's an unfortunate thing, and this is the kind of situation in which Parisian player taking that extra time on Death Mountain to get his health refilled by the old man is paying off. G3 kind of doing the opposite, being low on health, risking it by going into Moldorm with 2 health. Unfortunately, not getting the patterns he was looking for, having a tough time on the last hit of Moldorm. So losing the time of that fight to Moldorm, as well as having to go all the way back through Hera. He's going to be a good 30 seconds behind Parisian now, so we have a race on our hands, folks. Here's G3's second attempt at Moldorm. Now here, obviously with 5 hearts, feeling a lot more comfortable, but not wanting to get knocked down. Oh, and then getting knocked down a floor. That's kind of my fault for even saying that. He flipped the switch this time to be safe, but now hearts aren't the issue. It's getting bopped off the edge. And Parisian taking a commanding lead at this point due to the issues with Moldorm for G3. So possible upset watch on our hands here. Parisian with about a 2-minute slower PB, but taking about a minute lead probably at this point. And GG's to G3 for finishing off Moldorm. Any runner, top runner, new runner, we've all run into Moldorm situations that we just could not recover from. it's a frustrating boss. It's a frustrating dungeon, as I said. It's really easy to lose time. It's not really easy to save time. It's just easy to lose time in that dungeon. And unfortunately for G3, just struggling with Moldorm, having a very difficult pattern the first fight and dying and then getting knocked off. A decent bit behind, but still definitely within striking distance. There's a lot of race left. There's a lot of places where time can be lost. We're coming up on Aghanim's Tower, one of the highest RNG points of the run, in which this whole minute could be saved or lost depending on which what kind of luck G3 gets versus Parisian player. Definitely time to stay tuned in. Yeah, and Parisian player getting to skip a red, just loaded up with rupees. I mean, 49 rupees. He had, I think, 44 leaving Hera. I believe he did get 1 blue rupee from that tree. And here we see the tree rupee strat we talked about. They will pull that first tree, get some rupees if they need, and then they have to kill 4 enemies without taking a hit, and then pull another tree. That will be all red rupees. If they get bopped at any point by an enemy, they take any damage. Oh! I think that's my fault as well. I don't know how to explain this without cursing people, but G3 taking a hit from, unfortunately, a guard that spawned from a bush in one of the worst spots they can, which is where that mushroom spawns, and unfortunately not having the room to avoid it, he's going to have to go ahead and do backup rupees. So the good news is there is a backup strategy here. He will go ahead and pull the same tree that he was going to pull that would have 4 reds, and then we'll have to again kill 4 enemies without taking damage and then pull a tree. If he's unable to execute here, he would have to probably get Sarashla rupees in the on his way to Palace of Darkness, which would lose a lot of time. So hopefully he will not have any issues with this. Hopefully G3 also, race setting, it's real easy to start, kind of losing your momentum as you're struggling through, something as frustrating as a Moldorm death and then fall, but he hopefully will be able to recover from that and get back on the pace he was on. I mean, really great pace going into Desert, and then, Hera just really giving him some issues. Here we see Parisian having a different strat there, doing a quick strat there and losing an arrow that he could probably use later, but finishing that room considerably faster than I do with my dinner bell strat. Both of these runners in Lost Woods skipping the mushroom. The mushroom is what you'd use for powder as a safety. These runners say, you know what, I'm a pro. I don't need it. They don't need powder. They're not plebes like me. You know what I mean? That is the strat, but there are easier strats that dummies like me do. New life. But he is down 1 arrow that he could use later, so I thought he might use the dinner bell strat, but he did decide to go with it. Here, G3 having plenty of arrows, so not having to worry about that, messing up the last hit a little bit. But he has 10 arrows, which is really nice. He left Desert with 13 arrows, which is considerably more than you kind of expect to leaving Landmo. Here he'll have to do he'll have to kill this first red guard. Actually just deciding to kill the red guards mostly with slashes anyways. Parisian struggling a little bit with this red guard room, not getting the hit quite the way he would like. Aghanim's Tower, definitely not a difficult tower in terms of taking damage or being worried about dying to Aghanim or anything, but kind of a death by paper cuts type of dungeon. Every room has a decent bit of RNG, a lot of time that can be lost to getting hit by different guards or having different small issues. But Parisian really entering the part that people care about with Aghanim's Tower, which is the Aghanim fight. Aghanim can do basically 2 different things. He can either give you a blue ball, which you cannot deflect back at him and waste time, or he can give you an energy shot that you can shoot back at him. The first part of every phase will be an energy shot, and then the next 3 will be a 50-50 chance of each, followed by a lightning cycle. And so essentially those coin flips will determine how much time these runners gain or lose to each other in Aghanim's Tower and get us started into Light World. So we'll see if G3 gets a little bit better luck than Parisian may be able to, shorten that gap a bit. So that first shot, always an energy shot, and so here we'll see what Parisian gets. 1 blue ball for Parisian. G3 catching up a decent bit of time in Aghanim's tower, it appears. Executing a little bit better and you know, being able to bridge that gap just a bit. You'll see these runners also trying to push Aghanim closer to the middle as much as possible. That saves time for his warps in between each different phase, and so that can save a decent amount of time actually over the course of the Aghanim fight, depending on where he sets himself up. Parisian getting his second blue ball there. Third blue ball. So Parisian will go ahead and finish with 3 blue balls. That's assured now. G3 getting his first. Okay, we'll see if G3 catches up a little bit of time. 1 blue ball so far. Two blue balls so far. 3 blue balls so far. Commentator cursed. Sorry, G3. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying what's happening. It's not. It's honestly not my fault. I think scientifically I don't have an effect on it, but you know, you never know. So 3108 sort up by Parisian. Both of them getting, it looks like 3 blue balls, so no time saved there, but G3 did execute a bit better in Aghanim's tower, so was able to save a bit of that time. We'll see. He's probably about a minute behind. I'm not 100% sure, but we will see. And then Parisian heading over to Palace of Darkness, which is a tough dungeon for sure. We'll see one of the harder tricks in the game, Hammer Jump, which is a really cool bomb jump that has 2 pixel perfect placements. It's really cool looking trick. And we also have a pretty important fight with Helmasaur, which can obviously swing this match one way or the other. So definitely, you know, a lot can happen here for sure. Looks like a little less than a minute behind for G3, so definitely within striking distance. This race is not over by any means, still fairly close. G3 recovering well from having a really frustrating Tower of Hera there and having a solid Aghanim's tower, hopefully back to his ways in which he started the race. He was really on a tear. 550 to escape, really solid Eastern, a good desert with an okay Landmo, and then unfortunately just Hera really struggling for him, but seems like he's back into his executing mode, and I think he can definitely make this a race for sure. Here we're paying the monkey, the extortionist, Kiki the extortionist. Both runners getting 3 blue balls, kind of nice. It's kind of nice to not see, you know, some sort of RNG, you know, affecting the race to that extreme. When both runners get the same luck, you know, there's no complaints that one runner got 12 blue balls and one got 0. So kind of nice to see them both getting 3 there. The path through Palace of Darkness is pretty precise. You're able to pick up a decent number of bombs with the way this has been routed, which you both need for this floor right here and for the bomb jump, hammer jump, and for just the rest of the run in general. We'll load up on bombs here in Palace of Darkness for sure. Mostly just traveling through rooms, grabbing keys, mirroring back to the beginning. Kind of a boring beginning, but here we will see in just a bit the hammer jump. So the hammer jump involves 2 pixel perfect placements. It'll allow these runners to blast themselves from the bridge over to the big key chest in order to grab the hammer. This saves about 45 seconds, I believe, from the actual intended route of going all the way up the bridge, wrapping around, opening some chests, going into another door, going through a maze, bombing a hole in the wall. It's a whole bunch of stuff they have to do, and so this will let them skip a lot of that. And here we'll see Parisian player going into the hammer jump. Let's see how he does. Okay. It's a bit blurry on my screen, so I'm not able to see the pixels to know what he has lined up. Really solid. I think that was like one or maybe 2 additional buffers. Really nice by him. I'm going ahead, grabbing that hammer, the MC hammer. Yes, it does say MC hammer in the text box. You can look for it on G3 screen. And mirroring out, he's going to be heading on his way to the second half of Palace of Darkness. seeing from chat, just a 44-second difference. So really still a pretty tight race for sure. Here we have G3 setting it up. Also just 2 buffers, I think, for him. So really solid by both of them. Very difficult trick, but runners of this caliber make it look easy. They've done it so many times. It's not really the part of the run they're worried about. Nice mimics room from Parisian, but going ahead and slowing down, grabbing some arrows. He was down to 2. Doesn't need to grab arrows, but for a race setting, it's good to know. It'd be interesting to know if Parisian is aware that he's in the lead at this point. It's a difference in, you know, opinion or approach. Some runners like to, you know, keep the stream up so they can keep an eye on where they are in terms of their opponent. They're able to maybe do safer strats or more risky strats depending on that. Some don't want to know anything at all. And some people like me like to meme in the chat while they're doing the race and then lose like 10 minutes. So it all depends on your personality. Here, Parisian going into the turtle room. This is a very frustrating room. Making it look super easy. You can accidentally flip one of those turtles back over and it can cause kind of mayhem. Runners of this quality probably not struggling with it as often as I do, but really nice job by Parisian player doing that room optimally. Heading into the Helmasaur fight with full health. He can take 3 hits and still live through this fight, so feeling a lot more safe. He can probably take this a bit more aggressively than he would if he took a bunch of other hits. Also, both runners having sword beams for the second half of Palace of Darkness, which you saw on G3's screen, allows him to hit that switch without menuing to something else. Parisian going for hammer hits and gets all 4 hammer hits. Really nice Helmasaur fight. He got very favorable RNG. He got no fireballs, but being able to get all 4 of those hammer hits in only 5 swings, saving him considerable time over doing 8 sword slashes. So good job by Parisian player on Helmasaur for sure. Also saving time. No refill after this. He has full magic. He has full health. That'll save him a bit of time as well. Here we have G3 going into the Helmasaur fight. See how he fares. Okay, also not getting a fireball early, which is nice. Oh, getting 2 at the end right here. But no issue for him to recover. Could have waited to break the mask off. If the mask breaks off while there's a fireball on the screen, it will despawn the fireball. The mask breaks into, I believe, 9 different sprites, and the sprite overload despawns the fireballs on the screen. And so deciding to play a bit more aggressively and not worry about that paid off. He'll have a little bit of a refill on hearts, but good to go. Solid fight from both of them, heading on their way now to Thieves Town. On the trip to Thieves Town, they're going to go ahead and pick up the flute, which will allow them to travel a lot quicker throughout the rest of the run. So they're going to have to go visit their boy Stumpy. They're going to have to get the shovel and use it once and then never use it again. And yeah. What's interesting here that you'll see on Parisian player's screen is another Japanese 1.0 glitch. So my computer blue screen before, I didn't get to talk about spin speed, but here is an item dash. This allows you to dash with specific items out, and so instead of having to hammer each of those additional pegs, able to just dash straight through them. This is possible just by tapping Y and A at the same time. It's pretty simple to do. However, if you're trying to do it on your US cart, it's not going to happen. We still got a very tight race here, a lot of race to go. There's the dungeons just get harder and harder as you go through Dark World, and especially because we are sequence breaking, we are not doing these dungeons in their intended order. First try dig from Parisian player, very nice job. That's a joke, it's always in the same spot, but still, sometimes you miss. So we'll be heading to Thieves and then Skullwoods. Normally, Swamp Palace would actually, I believe, be the next dungeon, but we will be doing them out of order, just to save time in terms of where they're located and what you have to do to get them. So because of that, and because the game expects you to have more hearts, maybe you know, some other items, but especially, you know, to have been exploring Hyrule getting hearts, some of these dungeons can be a bit tougher with doing them out of order. First try dig from G3, you know they're pros. Parisian player hopping in the chat, so probably aware of his lead, saying he would have golded that Palace of Darkness if it weren't for stopping for the arrows, which we pointed out was kind of a safety, but really nice Palace of Darkness for him. Definitely these runners going blow for blow, trading really good segments. G3 with really good, basically first 10 minutes of the race, killing Escape and Eastern. Both of them having decent desert and the same cycle landmos. And if you're just tuning in, going into Hera, G3 having about a minute lead, I believe. No, sorry, about 30-second lead, but falling to Moldorm and dying to Moldorm and then falling to Moldorm, costing him a decent bit of time. Now behind by about 45 seconds, I believe. Both runners getting 3 blue balls in Aghanim and having solid Palace of Darknesses, so we've still got a pretty decent race here on our hands. Here, a Parisian player just dashing through the first half of Thieves. Nothing too interesting here. Thieves really is a fairly straightforward dungeon. There's a few rooms that can be tricky, specifically the Hellway coming up. So we'll see how he does with that. The Hellway is this long hallway filled with enemies and moving floors, and it's very RNG based. Even there is a pixel people call the God Pixel, and if he can align himself on that, he can dash his way all the way up between the spikes and get to the top of the screen. However, it still depends on the enemy placement whether or not even getting the God Pixel really matters, because if they get in the way, these Patrick Starfishes get in the way, then there's really nothing else you can do. You're going to have to take it slow as well. So let's see how he does here. Okay, not getting the God Pixel, maybe not even trying for it, seeing the alignment of the Patrick Starfish there, but doing a really good job of recovering, being able to dash most of the way up. Really nice job by Parisian. Definitely a section you can lose a decent bit of hearts in, and again, since these runners don't have powder, they don't have that safety of being able to refill their health at multiple points during the run. So good job by him, only taking 1 heart of damage and able to move to the second half of Palace of Darkness. Palace of Darkness? Thieves Town? Whatever. Thieves of Darkness. Okay, let's see how G3 fares. G3 getting the God Pixel, but like we said, those Patrick Starfishes want to get in your way, actually taking longer on the Hellway, even though he did a better job aligning himself perfectly on the exact pixel he wanted. That's kind of how Link to the Past goes right there. Link to the Past says, you know what, I don't care that you executed perfectly, I am going to just make this hard for you. So both of them only down a heart. Basically going to be fine. Going to go ahead and grab the Titan's Mitts, which will allow them to pick up even heavier rocks than they ever imagined they could pick up, so that's pretty cool. The boss that you'll see coming up is blind. Yes, this little girl that we have picked up and rescued from the dungeon is going to turn into an evil monster. Spoilers, and we will have to fight that monster. Kind of like a bullet hell type of boss, where the boss is constantly shooting fireballs at you, and as you go through each phase, the head will detach and another head will be there, and that head will spin throughout the room shooting fireballs, and that will just kind of slowly escalate. However, the nice thing is this is a scripted fight, so if they follow the correct movements exactly, they shouldn't have to worry too much about that. So Parisian going into that fight, let's see how he does. Setting himself up for the first cycle here. No issues on the first cycle. Very good job by him. It's really the second and third where these can be tricky. No issue on the second cycle. Really nice blind fight by Parisian player. No issues for him whatsoever. Able to go ahead and move on. G3 grabbing a couple extra arrows here and heading into the blind fight himself. G3 setting up for the first phase, no issues. That's the easiest phase, as you can tell, not too bad. Just kind of have to hold your sword out 3 times. Now we see as the heads accumulate and spin around, it gets more difficult. And both these runners, way too top of the runners to have any issues with blind. Both of them sticking to the script, having no issues, clearing blind, fine. 446 sword up from Parisian. We'll see what G3's is. Parisian now has to go on a little shopping trip before we go to Skullwoods. He's going to pick up 600 rupees from 2 chests. Those will be used later to pay the extortionist Zora for the flippers, which we will need for Swamp Palace. And also, he will pick up a tempered sword. Those of you who are Rando fans do know that the Tempered Sword isn't required to beat the game. You can beat the game with the Master Sword. However, it is much faster to go ahead and go through this little shopping trip and get the Tempered Sword. It makes the Ganon fight alone much, much faster, but also all of the bosses and enemies on the way for the next, 45 minutes will be easier to kill. So definitely worth this little minute trip to go ahead and do that. So he's going to go ahead and turn in his frog friend. Even though he saved his frog friend from a life of being a frog, still going to be charged 10 rupees to upgrade that sword. A really good deal, but still, why not free? What do you all think? I feel like it should be free. And you'll see he'll go ahead and just use this warp. The game wants you to just leave the screen or leave something. It's fastest just to warp to Dark World and warp right back over, and the sword's already ready. It only took him literally 10 seconds to make the sword, and yet, 10 rupees. I'm telling you, I'm salty about the 10 rupees. It's about the principle, everybody. It's about the principle. You save someone's life, you get a free sword. Yes, no save and quit is not allowed in NMG. And so you will not see the runner save and quit at any time. Saving and quitting is a glitch, clearly not intended in the game. The reason save and quit is actually disallowed, all joking aside, is just basically a community rule. I think because of all the saving and quitting that would be involved, I think people will just enjoy the run a lot more as one solid flowing thing, and so it's just kind of a community agreement that saving and quitting is not allowed. The only time saving and quitting is allowed in this tournament, specifically the fake flippers you saw in the light world right before Hera. If you soft lock there for tournament's sake, you're allowed to save and quit because it loses time, but it keeps you from being soft locked out of the game. And so that is allowed, but outside of that, save and quit not allowed in the tournament. And here, Parisian player entering one of the hardest rooms in the game, this Gibdo room. These Gibdos hit like a truck. I think they take off 2 or 3 hearts apiece, doing a good job of recovering from really bad RNG, going ahead and saying, you know what, I'm going to pull from the other side of the statue and make sure that I don't get hit. If you want to be careful there, can switch over to the boomerang, boom them, and freeze them in place. That does lose time because you do have to menu to the boomerang and then take the time to boomerang them. But Parisian player making a good thing out of a bad situation, recovering well from the bad RNG there. Or bad movement. I don't know 100% if this is just RNG or if I think it's partly based on your movement, partly RNG. Ooh, not moving the statue quite far enough than accidentally bopping it over. Okay, I think he's okay. G3 doing a good job of that room as well, recovering well, noticing his mistake, going ahead and making sure that he didn't lose any more time than he needed. And we see Parisian player with another one of the easy bomb jumps like the one you saw in Hera, bonking over the wall to open the big key chest, get the fire rod, and then move on to the second half. Skullwood's obviously having a whole bunch of other rooms in it, but really no reason to go in them. We just need to go ahead and get the fire rod and then finish the dungeon. Nothing else needed here. Here we have Parisian entering the Gibdo Hellway. We'll see how he does here, what strategy he uses. Going ahead doing the optimal strategy here. And missing a fire rod shot. He'll be a little low on magic, which is fine. He may have 1 fire rod shot left for him for Mothula. Mothula, a really weird boss, whether by intention or not. If you knock Mothula into the spikes that surround his room, he will take no damage. It cancels out the damage. And so these runners, there's a moving floor, there's these moving moving spikes going throughout the level. Really nice Mothula fight by Parisian. Getting good RNG and able to execute on it. Getting to kill him in just 4 slashes, not hitting anything against the spikes, and also being able to add in the pokes there to be able to do that really quickly. Both runners you saw knocking that Gibdo against the spikes, which causes, in the opposite way of Mothula, additional damage, allowing you to kill the Gibdo quicker and get that key before any of those other enemies rush at you. Let's see how he does. Also getting a fairly favorable pattern till this last hit. Oh, now getting trolled. He does not have the fire rod out, and unfortunately getting trolled, losing a good probably 8 seconds to that last hit. If he had kept the fire rod out, would have been able to go ahead and fire rod him and attract the moth back down to him. However, opting to go ahead and do the fastest possible thing and move to the mirror to have it ready so he does not have to menu after the dungeon, but losing a little bit of time to that last hit. Parisian kind of having a really optimal fight and getting good RNG. G3 getting trolled a bit by the moth. Yeah, we've got, it looks like from g3rd0, our man, about a 38-second difference. Still a very close race. Also, anybody in chat, huge shout out to g3rd0. You guys should all, guys and ladies, should all thank him. He's done a lot of work organizing this tournament and has done a really good job. And so just want to say thanks to him. You know, he does a lot of work behind the scenes for that. So might not get appreciated for that. Does really great work. So thanks so much to g3rd0 for all his work. Here we have the runners going ahead, heading to Ice Palace, which is a pretty difficult palace in this game, especially the most punishing in terms of if one of these runners takes a death. Several minutes lost, so this run 100% still in the balance, with only being 38 seconds apart. They're going to go ahead, head up and grab the Quake Medallion, which they will need to open, I believe, a Turtle Rock. I always have trouble keeping track of which medallion technically opens which. And then they will be heading up to pay the Extortionist Zora for their 500 rupee flippers and then head to Ice Palace. Hopefully going as quickly as possible because I'm getting hungry. I don't know about you all. I'm getting hungry. Only ate breakfast today, you know? So I gotta eat lunch. Lunch is an important meal. Really cool to see this very close match between two very good runners. Right now, the biggest difference being that Hera part of the game. You know, a lot of the other stuff that can make a big difference, not causing as much of a time difference, both getting really good hammer jumps, both getting 3 cycles on Aghanim, both getting 5 cycles on Landmo. Most of this run has been fairly evenly matched, except for a little bit better execution in some sections by G3, but an unfortunate death in Hera and Fall to Moldorm being the difference that you're seeing right now. G3, though slowly, has been chipping away at that lead. It was about a minute lead at one point, maybe even a little more, but now down to 38 seconds. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to catch up that time, if Parisian makes any mistakes that open that window up just a little bit to let G3 catch back up into this race. But right now, any mistake can really bridge the gap between G3 and Parisian, or possibly lengthen that gap, depending on what happens. So, really good race. Definitely not time to turn this off or turn away, because we have no clue what's going to happen. I'm real excited. And just so anybody who is curious, this is single elimination. So whoever loses this match is going home. They're done. So all the stakes on the line. You know, this is definitely one to watch for sure. One really good runner is going to be eliminated from this tournament today. So here we see Parisian starting out Ice Palace, going ahead, fire riding that first enemy, getting the key from the jellyfish, and he will be heading down to the basement to do another one of these bomb jumps. This one a difficult bomb jump, not as difficult as hammer jump, but a lot harder than, say, the Hera bomb jump or the Skullwoods bomb jump, having some pretty precise pixels. But this bomb jump, the most important bomb jump, to be honest, you can retry it several times, but it does save several minutes of routing. It really sequence breaks this dungeon. The dungeon expecting you to traverse your way through much of Ice Palace twice, backtracking because of this switch. kind of in an annoying fashion. However, we'll be skipping a lot of that. Also, you'll notice we'll be skipping our first big key chest, because it just has blue mail. These runners don't need blue mail. It is not a safety really anybody grabs, because there is red mail later if needed. But we'll go ahead and skip the big key chest. So not needing even the big key in this dungeon at all. You don't have to go through a big key door to get to Cold Stare. And there you see Parisian player setting up the bomb jump, executing it very well, going ahead, trying to make sure he's keeping his lead. G3 doing a really good job of that giant Stalfos room, dashing through this hallway and heading to the bomb jump himself. This is a very close race. Cold Stare being a very difficult boss. First of all, needing to use all of your magic to get Cold Stare out of his giant ice cube, and then once you have melted that, hopefully push him into the corner and keep him in there. But if he bursts out of the corner, if any of those puffs burst out, they do 4 hearts of damage right now. Remember, these runners are supposed to have not only more hearts, but also, because of this dungeon, blue mail. And so Cold Stare hits like a truck, and any small mistake allowing these puffs to come out of the corner can cost a death, which can cost minutes. So these runners have to be careful here going into Cold Stare, but also trying to push, going fast, probably aware that, you know, G3 is 20 seconds behind, maybe 30 seconds behind. Here we go, Parisian player going ahead. Solid first phase. Nice spin. Getting bopped by the... Wow, getting bopped by the icicle, but getting very lucky. The puffs all staying in the same bunch there, so he's able to push them up against the wall and stay safe. Very lucky for Parisian player that he didn't lose a lot more time with those puffs getting loose. Here we've got G3, similar strat, obviously. Oh, he's doing the... Ooh, he did a poke and spin. Oh, the puff's getting loose, but not too bad. They were only 1 slash away, so neither runner really optimally beating the boss, but nobody losing too much time there, so ended up being fine for them. And let's see what our comparison is now in this tight match. Looks like we are at a 24-second time difference. This is a very close race. There is a lot left here. We have Mire, we have Turtle Rock, we have Ganon's Tower, and we have the Ganon fight. All 4 of those could possibly make up a 24-second difference. So lots of things could happen here. We do not need a death for a lead change. We do not need a big mistake. There's a lot of RNG and small time saves that can add up at this point. Parisian player going ahead, doing his shopping trip before Swamp. Something I do and other runners do as well. It's useful because you can keep full health going into Mire. Mire is a tough dungeon because Vitreous involves a lot of damage boosting to beat optimally, and so that can lose a decent bit of time. Also, Mire 2, a room really nice to have sword beams, so getting that guaranteed health refill from Swamp and being able to go right into Mire, really nice. However, it is technically slower because G3 will be able to go through his shopping trip much faster with the hook shot. He'll be able to go up that long ladder considerably quicker, so could save a couple seconds here on Parisian player, and seconds are precious in this race as it's so close right now. So here, as you see, the runners will separate a bit. G3 will appear to be in the lead for most of Swamp Palace because of this different routing, and you need to keep in mind that he is still 20 seconds or so behind Parisian player. Parisian player going ahead and getting the Ice Rod and the Ether needed to complete the run now. So it'll be interesting to see where they both are going into Mire. The thing about Swamp Palace, and especially in a race like this, is that Swamp Palace is not a difficult dungeon. There are not a lot of risks of dying, per se, or making giant mistakes outside of brain fart to not flip the switch back. There's really not a lot of giant time losses to be made. However, it is a death by paper cuts type of dungeon. Every single room, can gain or lose small amounts of time, especially based on enemy movement and execution. It's definitely a palace that a lot of runners overlook. Blunt Bunny preaches about that all the time because you can save a decent chunk of time with good execution and quality strats. A lot of runners kind of foregoing that to focus on some more difficult dungeons and possibly paying off or losing time depending on how that works for them. But it'll be interesting to see how the execution for G3 versus Parisian Player here comes into play in this race with only 20 or so seconds separating these two runners. G3 executing very well so far. I assume Parisian will do the same, but again, a lot of enemy movement, a lot of RNG can influence this. And Parisian entering Swamp Palace now. Parisian Player taking a little bit of time to grab that key again. These small little things can add up, so it'll be interesting to see where they are going into Mire. G3 will save time on his shopping trip because of having the hook shot. Parisian Player opting to go ahead and get the Ice Rod and Ether before Swamp, saving him a little safety going into Mire because of the Vitreous fight, but losing him a few seconds routing-wise. It'll be interesting to see if that pays off. It's a move I make personally in my runs, but in something this tight, you don't know. You don't know what could possibly add up. This could come down to Ganon warps. It could come down to all sorts of things. So this is going to be a really interesting, tight race at the end. I'm really excited about this. G3 going ahead. He's got the big key. He's going to go ahead and grab the hook shot. The hook shot does a couple of different things that really make this run interesting. For one, when Link is using the hook shot, he has iframes and is unable to take damage. You'll see that used mostly in the Ganon fight to avoid taking damage to the fire bats. It also allows you to travel quicker by hooking onto objects. Here we'll see if he gets this. Nope, not even opting to try for the hook shot to the second pot. It is a very precise setup. Doesn't save too much time, but here you see how he can travel much faster when he's trying to travel between objects and such. Here, using an item dash, you might not be able to tell that he's item dashing. In order to put that Link into a glitch state, it allows him to grab that pot while moving the statue. G3 opting to grab some extra arrows there and then taking a little electricity from the tentacle, so losing a little bit of time there to the jellyfish and to the arrows. And G3 will be going ahead and entering the Argus fight. Argus, one of the easiest bosses in terms of being able to beat him in the run, not worrying about dying, especially coming after Mothula and Cold Stare. However, you can save time on Argus. It'll be interesting to see if any of these runners go aggressive, try and get a 0-cycle Argus here, which will save a little bit of time. G3 also losing a little time, just swimming past the ladder there. These little small differences will add up with a race like this. They generally don't. And really nice start from G3. And he's going to get the 0-cycle. Really great job by G3 there. Really impressive. And going for the Fire Rod strat. Misses it. Oh, actually losing time to the Fire Rod strat and losing really most of his time he saved from the 0-cycle by going for that Fire Rod strat, not hitting it and getting 3 different cycles in that last phase, unfortunately. But really great job doing a 0-cycle in the first phase. Parisian also getting the same arrows, a little low, only having had 11 of them. He's going to need arrows for the end of the game, especially for Ice Armos, so probably smart of him to grab those. And Parisian will be heading over to the Argus fight. We'll see if he's able to pull off a zero cycle or even goes for it. He's down to 4 hearts, taking a lot of different hits from enemies that he did not need to, possibly leaving some room for G3 to catch up on some time, having to slow down, refill his hearts, refilled some of his arrows and bombs. Not sure why he grabbed the bomb. No use for the bomb at this point, but just going ahead, getting all the items in there, and possibly opening up some room for G3 to catch up. Again, G3 is a bit behind, even though it looks like he's ahead, because he has not grabbed the Ice Rod or the Ether yet. And Parisian not going for a zero cycle. I don't blame him. He took a bunch of damage. It's very risky in a fight like this, but it is time that, you know, G3 will have caught up on him. However, G3 messing up the second phase, trying for the Fire Rod strat. We'll see if Parisian gets that. It might kind of break even for these runners. Nope, not at all. Okay, so G3 catching up even more time. You see him traveling up that ladder very quickly because of his glitch state with the hookshot. That's the difference in time that we're talking about in terms of going for the Ether and the Ice Rod before Swamp as opposed to after. And so G3 catching up time there, catching up a bit of time on the Argus fight. It'll be interesting to see as they enter Mire how far apart they really are. It's going to be very close. Parisian complaining about the Swamp RNG in chat. As we said going in, lots of RNG in that dungeon. Death by paper cuts, lots of different enemy movements, lots of different things. Parisian feeling the brunt of that as he, you know, struggled a bit going through there, taking a lot of damage, having to slow down to get hearts at the end. As we said, it's a tough dungeon, and sometimes enemies just move in patterns that are going to cost you time. So it'll be interesting to see what the gap is as they go into Mire. Link Orange urging Parisian player to not chat in chat like John Carls does and to focus on the game. To be fair, Link Orange did beat me and eliminate me from the tournament while I was talking in chat, so he might know what he's talking about. Looks like G3. Oh my gosh, this is so close, everybody. We are talking about Parisian player maybe being behind by 5 seconds, maybe less. This is a very close race. If you are just tuning in now, both runners entering Mire now, about 5 seconds separated. This run has been determined by a couple different things. G3 taking a death and a fall to Moldorm in Hera, giving Parisian a really significant lead, but G3 since then just chipping away with execution, really. Most of the RNG in terms of the big things, the Aghanim fight, for example, you know, not costing people time. 3 blue balls each, 5 cycle for Landmo each, but G3 just executing so well, doing a great job, honestly, of recovering from a very frustrating situation, losing a good minute and a half in Hera to falls and deaths to Moldorm, able to, you know, pick himself back up, get focused, and now takes back the lead after about, you know, 40 minutes since that that really frustrating stretch. So does a really great job of continuing to execute. These runners are literally 2 rooms apart right now, an hour and 7 minutes into the run. We're going to have a really exciting race. I'm glad you're all here. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you're all as hype as I am, because this is an awesome race. This is the kind of race that you tune into speed gaming for, to see a tight race like this against 2 top runners, 2 really solid runners of the game. Mire, definitely a difficult dungeon. Not a lot of hearts in Mire to keep runners safe. These runners who have dropped powder, you know, a powder runner going through Mire really is not feeling any pressure. There's a lot of anti-fairies in this dungeon, but there are really very few hearts in this dungeon, and so these runners have to be very careful to keep their hearts up, because the Vitreous fight does involve a lot of damage boosting, which we'll talk about when we get there. And so these runners are constantly trying to make sure that they're avoiding taking damage as much as possible. They're going to have to take 3 hearts of damage in the spike room in order to get a key, and so that's already 3 hearts that they will not have for Vitreous. So any additional hearts are going to cause a little bit of blood pressure to Spike, as they're knowing that this race is very tight. We're pretty aware Parisian player probably knows how tight this race is. We do not know if G3 is aware, but these runners are several rooms behind. That is it. They're both really going to be coming down to the wire on this one, and it's going to be awesome to see what happens. Any small mistake could cost one of these runners the race and their spot in the tournament. Here, G3 grabbing the Cane of Samaria, which is a pretty interesting item. It creates a block, which allows you to, flip switches and such and leave the block laying there. It also allows you to ride on some sort of platform type of, it's a small world after all ride in Turtle Rock, and it also allows you to shoot shots in multiple directions. You'll see it used for all three of those purposes in these next few dungeons. It's really kind of cool, unique item. Here you'll see it used for that first purpose, which is what it's really intended for, is to create a block. Here it'll go ahead and keep that down, and so that's what it's required for in this run. That's why we grab it, but there are a lot of different uses, especially in Ganon's Tower, that will make it useful, and you also cannot traverse throughout Turtle Rock without it, so definitely a very necessary item for this run. Here we see its second use, which is shooting off these fireballs in multiple directions, so very versatile item. And I don't know, pretty cool of Nintendo to create, to be honest. It's much more, definitely much more versatile and unique than a lot of the Zelda items that you normally see. G3, using his last bomb. Here are the small different optimizations you may not notice if you do not know NMG, but both of these runners dropping an extra bomb or using their last bomb in order to fire rod over to that switch, basically not having to menu to anything and not having to walk left, saving a little bit of time. And here G3 entering into the Vitreous fight. Here we'll see him damage boosting into the eyeballs to go ahead and spin into them, do damage, going for that WQ strat. Zero cycle from G3, really great execution. Going ahead, switching over to the mirror. Here we've got Parisian Player doing the same thing here on his third spin, going ahead and slashing on the last one, and zero cycle as well. These runners not even worried one bit. Look at those heart counts. 4 hearts for Parisian Player. It looks like 6 for G3. Neither of them having an issue. Both of them holding up the crystal basically at the same time, and we are within seconds of each other going into the last crystal dungeon, Turtle Rock. This is an awesome race, everybody. I am so excited to see what happens. I just texted my landlord, letting him know, you know what, I might get loud here in a second, because I'm getting excited. I don't know about you guys. Are you all excited? 11:05 versus 11:17 Crystal Catch. We're talking about a 12-second difference here. We've got about 15 to 18 minutes left in this race. Anything could happen. We do not know at all who is really in the lead. G3, honestly, the last 40 minutes or so, out-executing Parisian Player, just really executing very well to make up for his mistakes in Hera. Bonking into a dead rock there. Here's another thing that can cause a big difference in time. These dead rocks, these squirrels, if you hit them, they will freeze in place, and sometimes you can block a path, sometimes you'll bonk backwards. It's an annoying path going up to Turtle Rock. One thing not pointed out earlier is that we've been trying to manipulate the drop table for fairies this whole time. So if you noticed in the beginning of Aghanim's Tower, there were 2 enemies that these runners dashed through in the second room versus slashing. This was because we are trying to avoid getting a fairy drop so that we can get one in Turtle Rock. And so it'll be interesting to see if these runners get these fairies when they need. G3 getting some pretty bad luck with these dead rocks so far, being pretty annoying. He has not lost many hearts, at least. He's only lost 1 heart, but just kind of losing time to these. And time is very precious right now. It'll be interesting to see if either of them gets the fairy that they need. This run could come down to not getting a fairy when you want. Pokies, Chomp Room, a lot of stuff in Turtle Rock is very dangerous. Question in chat was, what does zero cycle mean for Vitreous? So a zero cycle for Vitreous means that Vitreous never does his lightning cycle. So that's considered his first cycle, I guess, doing, you know, what the eyeballs normally do, and then the lightning cycle. Since these runners were able to kill him so quickly, he never even shot lightning, so we consider that a zero cycle. Which is kind of funny to me because I feel like a zero cycle means you never fought him. Like, you despawn the boss. But yes, that's considered, I guess, a zero cycle. Here we see the third use of the Cane of Samaria, which is using it to transform on these platforms across Turtle Rock. And so just, again, a very odd, versatile item here. We see G3 doing a good job of lighting all 4 torches and hook-shotting over. Be interesting to see if either of these runners end up mirroring out of here, which is a 3-second difference, but causes a little bit more safety. I'm assuming neither will. G3 having a bit trouble opening that chest, going ahead and exiting down as opposed to mirroring out, playing it a bit safe, not damage boosting through, so losing a little time to what's optimal, but also playing it safe, which is smart in this case. Parisian player, however, saying, I'm going to take the damage, catching up a little bit of time there by damage boosting through the last roller rather than doing that, and saving time by deciding to skip the free magic refill, a full magic refill there, and he decides to skip it. It appears that G3 still has not gotten that fairy, but he's pretty good on health, using those pegs as iframes and executing that chomp room very well. Neither of them getting a fairy at this point. They'll probably get it on the next pokey. Parisian player, pro player again, using those pegs to get the iframes. That is a very difficult room to execute. Those chomps move in a lot of different patterns. You have to be ready for all of them. Both of them getting fairly favorable patterns, timing everything well, hitting the pegs and getting those iframes. Those chomps do 4 hearts of damage apiece. And again, these runners don't have powder, so if they take 4 hearts of damage, that's a pretty considerable thing to happen in this dungeon. Here we have G3 going over to Pokey 1. Let's see if he gets a fairy drop here. Yes, he does. So now at full health. Makes sense. Parisian will probably also get the fairy here due to the fact that neither of them got it before the chomps, which is fine. Oh, still not getting the fairy. He may get it in Pokey 2. We'll see. Going through this segment to go ahead and get the big key so that they can go ahead and get into the final boss door. This dungeon, again, we will not get the big key chest item. That is the laser shield. We do not need that. We will be doing something called laser skip, which will allow us to get the key we need that the game intends for us to have the shield to block a laser for, but we won't use. G3 doing a good job at that Pokey 2 room, making a very quick execution of the pattern that he got. That room gives you, I think it has 32 different patterns that you can get. Parisian getting a bit of a worse pattern, doing a really good job of recovering though, and getting that fairy that we were talking about. Both these runners deep into Turtle Rock with no hearts missing, feeling good. Here we see G3 doing another use of some iframes, going ahead and being able to walk through that roller, getting that key, and we are heading to the end of Turtle Rock. Still rooms apart, everybody. You will see on G3's screen as he, in about 30 seconds, he will be doing what's called laser skip. Like we said, there's this hallway with many treasure chests on it, and there are these lasers that shoot out the walls. The intended method of getting this key that they're going to need to access the final boss is to use the laser shield to go ahead and block a laser and walk through there. However, we're going to use a very precisely placed dash in order to dash past it. As you saw right there with G3, super easy for him, not even a struggle one bit. Going ahead, and he will be entering, it looks like, Trinex, hopefully, with only 1 heart down, which is pretty amazing. Doing a very good job. Very subtle, you may not have noticed, but he intentionally was able to use those pegs to get iframes so that Pokey didn't hit him. The Pokeys hit very hard. I believe it's 4 hearts. And so he set himself up to go ahead and not take damage from the Pokey. Entering into Trinex, he's going with the backdoor strats. Parisian player going ahead and entering the final room before Trinex, only 2 rooms behind, saving a little time by not having grabbed any magic to refill after the roller room, and G3 making it look easy. Look at that, 1 heart down only. Parisian player a couple more hearts down than him. Awesome execution by G3, just making it really hard for Parisian to make up any time with this execution. I mean, he is just rolling so strong. It is really important to realize that G3 made a huge mistake in Hera, a mistake that would really frustrate any runner of this game. He died to Moldorm and then fell to Moldorm. A lesser runner probably would have... Ooh, we're down to 1 heart. Parisian player playing with my heartstrings, bringing it down to 1 heart, but he's okay. He's still within striking distance. We're good. Back to what I was saying. G3 dying in Hera and then falling to Moldorm again. A lesser runner possibly would have let himself unravel at that point, would have let that frustration seep through to the rest of his run. He comes right back. He does mess up tree rupees, and so at this point, a normal runner probably is going to lose it. They're going to lose their focus. They're going to lose their ability to execute. He goes through Aghanim's tower flawlessly, and since then he has been rolling and chipping away at this lead from Parisian Player until this point where he has now taken the lead. He's a good 15 to 20 seconds ahead, it looks like, going into Ganon's tower, and this is anybody's race. We are a 26-second race right now, with G3 having a 26-second lead over Parisian Player. Unbelievable, everybody. If you are not enjoying this, then speed gaming is not for you, because this is the kind of race you look for. Generally, when you're commentating a race like this, somebody's in Ganon's tower, somebody else is in Mire, you know, you're commentating two completely different parts of the run, you already know who's won. This, we still do not know who's won. Anybody could win this race. We are coming down to the wire. Ganon's tower, a very difficult dungeon, the most difficult dungeon, filled with execution, filled with tricks, and then Ganon himself, which not only presents RNG, but an execution factor. 26 seconds is nothing at this point. This is anybody's race, and whoever loses is out of this tournament, so the pressure is on for these runners. Really, really nice looking boomerang there, and here we'll see a pretty cool shot from G3, throwing the boomerang, hook shotting over, able to use the hook shot's kind of iframes or properties to boost over those pegs that you're not supposed to. A lot of cool little strategies implemented in Ganon's tower. At this point, we have so many weapons at our disposal. These items can do so many interesting things that you're going to see a lot of really cool stuff with the hookshot, with the Cane of Samaria, with the fire rod, all kinds of different things. The boomerang. Yeah, the backwards boom from our boy G3, g3rd0, just really cool. I did not know G3 was g3rd0. G3, if you were listening to this, I'm sorry that I have called you G3 this whole round, but now I kind of have to at this point. It's g3rd0, Axel, it's g3rd0. Nobody corrected me, I don't know. I didn't know I was doing commentary until 1 minute before this, so I apologize. Here we have g3rd0 going into Ice Armos. This is a boss that, you know, the game intends for you to have silver arrows at this point. And so basically it decides, hey, you know what, we're going to refight all of the original bosses, but a little bit harder, all the Light World bosses. And you know what, we're going to do this boss on ice. It's like when you go see The Lion King, but The Lion King on ice, it's better. g3rd0 messing up the quick kill on Ice Armos, but doing a good job of shooting those arrows downwards and hitting him. Only one arrow left. That could have been really bad if he missed one, if he had run out of arrows there, because Ice Armos takes a lot of slashes. We'll see if Parisian can catch up a little bit of time by executing Ice Armos a bit more cleanly. And g3rd0 here on your left, entering the Mimics rooms. These are very difficult rooms that can save or lose a decent bit of time. I expect them both to be able to clear these fairly well because these are top runners, and just a very, very clean Mimics 1. Going into Mimics 2, just very optimal rooms, doing a very good job, taking a little bit of damage there, but not a big deal. And going into this very difficult room, doing the item dash with the bow and arrow, still taking a hit on the way back. These spike rooms, they suck, let's be honest. He doesn't mind either. Okay, that's good to know. Well, here Parisian Player taking a little bit slower of a time with Mimics 1, losing a little time to Link Orange, getting a whole treasure trove worth of arrows, whereas g3rd0 over here on the left out of arrows for what we call the gauntlet. This is 5 rooms filled with enemies, things on wheels, things on lasers, sharks with lasers on their heads, horses with lasers in their mouths. It's just an insane part, trying to just challenge all of your senses, everything that you've learned in game sense up to this point. And g3rd0, you know, with a decent lead, but very low on hearts. Very low on hearts. This is going to be very risky. Again, he does not have powder. He cannot refill many hearts from this point on. He's going to have to get the rest of his hearts through pots. Parisian Player doing a much better job of managing his health. Here, the revisit with with Landmo 2 missing some Fire Rod strats, going ahead and getting a 2-cycle. We'll see if Parisian can make up that time. But g3rd0 has to be careful here with 3.5 hearts. Going ahead and grabbing an extra one. He'll probably try and grab any hearts he can because whatever health he has leaving Ganon's tower is what he will be entering the Ganon fight with. And one hug from Ganon with green mail is going to cause 4 hearts of damage. So, it's going to be tough here. Here we see some other cool tricks with the Cane of Samaria killing these Wizrobes here. Parisian player going ahead and entering in Landmo 2. We'll see if he's able to make up a little bit of time with the 1 cycle, and he is. So making up some time on g3rd0. This is going to be a very tight ending. Concerned about g3rd0's health for sure here. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Low on magic. He's going to have to take a little bit of a refill before shooting this Fire Rod shot, but he's good to go. And these cool looking rooms from Parisian player, these Wizrobe rooms are real fun. They look awesome. They're not as hard as they look, and so that's really cool. Taking an extra bop there. Parisian player just a couple rooms behind. Whew. This is going to be close, everybody. Parisian player, g3rd0 down to 4.5 hearts. Parisian player with decent amount more of hearts here. You know, it looks like he's got about 8 hearts, so this is going to be probably the story of the end of this match. Can g3rd0 clutch this out? And g3rd0's ultimate nemesis, Moldorm, knocking him down again. That is the 3rd mistake to a Moldorm. He died in Herita Moldorm. He was knocked down in Herita Moldorm, and here in Moldorm 2, knocked down again. Probably sick of the stupid worm, and giving Parisian player just a little bit more time to catch up. Again, only 2 rooms behind. Wow, everybody, this is coming down to the wire. We are going into Aghanim 2, a very high RNG boss. Then we will be finishing the run off with Ganon, a very high RNG boss. This is anybody's match, and g3rd0, although he has a fairly decent lead at like 15 to 20 seconds, is down to 4.5 hearts, and that could be the difference maker here. If he makes any mistakes, he will be eliminated from the tournament due to that. Only getting 1 hit here on the first cycle. Again, this is heavy RNG, the Geometry Wizard. You got to prepare for all these scenarios. Getting a blue ball there, but getting a good job of getting 2 hits in. Okay, he's going to probably get a 4 cycle. Not bad. It'll be interesting. Parisian, both of them in the same fight now. Not taking any damage, at least, from those blue balls. g3rd0 still having those 4.5 hearts, which is going to help him, but he needs every single half heart he has there. Oh, and then Parisian player taking a hit, getting 0 hits on the first cycle, getting a very nice pattern for the 3rd. You might be able to get 3 hits in there. Nice. A good recovery from Parisian player, getting a nice pattern to kind of bail him out of a bad phase 1. Unfortunately, getting a blue ball there, or he could have had a 3 cycle. So both of these runners getting 4 cycles. Parisian player kind of getting bailed out by some good RNG. This is coming down to Ganon, everybody. I hope you're excited. Here, g3rd0's going to need to get 12 slashes in on each phase, trying to get a 1-in-1 in these first 2 phases. He's going to do a precise spin here, does that, pulls that off. He's got this middle pattern, the spin will do it. Okay, he got a 1 cycle first phase. Here we're in the 2nd phase, going ahead, doing the dash strats, getting some swag here. He's going to get his 12 hits in, he's going to get his 1-in-1, but will the 4.5 hearts be enough? He cannot make any mistakes. This is his match to lose at this point. It could come down to Ganon warps, but honestly, it's probably his match to lose. He cannot make a mistake, though. He is very, very close to that 4.5 hearts. Not optimal here on the right. Parisian player going for the 1-in-1, doing a very good job getting that spin in, going ahead, getting the first cycle out of the way in 1 turn. Doing a good job of the 2nd. Both these runners getting a 1-in-1. g3rd0 getting a lot of warps here. A lot of warps. A lot of warps. Oh my gosh. This is going to allow Parisian player to catch up. And this is unbelievable. That was probably 10 warps in a row. That cost him probably his entire lead. This is coming down to the wire. We are going to be within seconds of each other. This is going to come down to who can get 3 spins in the fastest. This is what we practice for. This is what we play for. Getting these spins in, trying to get 3 spins in each cycle. g3rd0 unfortunately accidentally freezing Ganon. Parisian player most likely taking the lead on this one. And oh my goodness, this is down to the wire. Oh man, Parisian player doing a real good job of getting those spins. g3rd0 getting really hurt by all those warps, and who knows, this could be within a second, 2 seconds, we don't know. Oh, both of them using those fire rods. You saw the torch glitch there. It keeps both torches lit so that you're able to do this strat. Not have to light each torch each time. Here we both have both of these runners on the 4th phase. g3rd0 taking him down 1 or 2 swings before Parisian player. Oh my goodness. g3rd0 getting the terrible, terrible warp luck at the end, almost opening the window for Parisian player to come in and win the match, but g3rd0 winning it with a 128.51. Parisian player's time coming up here in just a second. Looks like this match was within maybe 10 seconds. We're talking about a 10-second difference between these runners. Goodness sakes. GG's to g3rd0. GG's to Parisian player. Unbelievable race. And I thought those warps did g3rd0 in, but he was able to recover. He had a really nice phase 4 and was able to stave off Parisian player, who was honestly in the lead for most of the race due to the bad Hera and Parisian player. Unfortunately, just slipping time against g3rd0, who chipped away with execution, and right there at the end, almost lost it because of some Ganon warps, but both of them executing very well. Amazing job by both of these runners. Goodness sakes, 10 seconds. Hopefully we can get these runners in to have a little chat. Let's see. Let me see here. Whew. Whew, I gotta calm down. I gotta calm down, everybody. That was amazing. That was a 10-second race. g3rd0 getting about 8 to 10 warps in a row, losing him over 10 seconds right there on the final fight, and I thought that was it. Parisian player was coming storming back. They were both in phase 4 at the same time, but g3rd0 able to pull off the victory. Just unbelievable job by both these runners. The real story of the match, g3rd0 hating the worm, falling against Moldorm, then dying against Moldorm, then falling against Moldorm, and then falling against Moldorm too. Those mistakes his biggest, but execution throughout the whole rest of the run, really just giving him the ability to get the win. Who we've got in here? Who I got?
Hey.
Parisian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm still shaking.
Yeah, how do you feel about the race? Were you aware of how close this race was at the end?
Yeah, I was looking at the not at the restreams, but I was looking at chat, so I understood that it was really close.
Oh man!
And when I got 0 warps at Ganon, I thought, my God, this has a real chance to be a win then.
Yeah, not only did you get 0 warps, but g3rd0 got about 8 to 10 warps on one of the cycle, like just one of the parts of Ganon, just all in a row, and it seemed like the window was open, you were going to win this by a couple seconds, but it just wasn't quite enough to give you the win, unfortunately. How do you feel about the run as a whole?
Well, there were some... I'm really unhappy about Swamp.
Mm-hmm.
And then also my light word is pretty bad. So yeah, I'm ahead just because g3rd0 apparently fell to Moldorm, and maybe twice, because it's weird that I'm 44 seconds ahead after Hera, especially since my light word is very bad.
Yeah, that was intense. g3rd0 also joining in on the call. So g3rd0, first of all, apologies that I called you G3 for 90% of this match, but I did hop in on commentary last second. But the real story of this match, g3rd0, you die to Moldorm in Hera, then you fall to Moldorm in Hera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you mess up tree rupees. What was it that made you be able to go from that to recovering and executing the way you did? Because from that point on, you executed so well that Parisian player probably was up by a minute, I believe, and you just chipped away slowly at that lead. How did you, I guess, keep your wits about you?
Well, I was plus 2 minutes on my PB after Hera.
Mm-hmm,
But I knew that plus 2 minutes on my PB would still be enough to probably beat Parisian player.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he PBs himself or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was still in the race if I don't make any major mistakes.
So you knew that Dark World, if you executed well enough, you could still stay in the race, and you did a really good job of executing from that point out. And so did Parisian player, obviously, 128.51, 129.01, 2 really good runs, way better than my PB. How were you feeling? Did you know how close it was? Were you keeping track of this at any point?
I did not watch the stream, no, but I expected it to be very close after that Hera.
Wow, so you had no idea how close it was. Let me tell you, this was a close one. How you fell at Moldorm 2 as well. Moldorm not treating you well. You're struggling with Moldorm. Going into the Ganon fight, you had about a 20-second lead. He got no warps. You got, I don't know, 3,000 warps. Yeah, I think you got 10 in a row at one point, and it looked like the RNG was going in Parisian players' favor, and you were going to lose. But you did finish strong. You executed that fourth phase well, and 10-second difference between the two of you. It was really good to see RNG not determine this race in terms of you both had 4-cycle Aghanim. You both 4-cycle Aghanim 2. You both had a 3-cycle Aghanim. You both had 5-cycle Landmo. So this came down to execution, and you were able to execute well enough outside of Moldorm to take the victory.
Yeah, I had great RNG in Aghanim 2. I should have 3-cycled him, but I totally failed the first cycle.
Yeah, so you did struggle that first cycle you missed, and you kind of got bailed out. He gave you a real nice setup for that second cycle, letting you save face, and so you both had 4-cycle Aghanim 2 going into that Ganon. It was anybody's match to win or lose, and I was really worried about your health, g3rd0, going into that Ganon fight. Were you worried at all?
I had 4.5 hearts, so everything that's over 4 is okay, because you can tank one hit.
Yeah, I was worried. Something, I mean, a death to Ganon obviously would have given Parisian the win. It was so close. I think a Parisian player had 8 hearts going into Ganon. You had 4.5. I thought that might be the story of how the match ended, but you were able to clutch it out. You did an awesome job on Ganon. Chat asking how many blue balls? 3 blue balls for each, 5-cycle Landmo for each, 4-cycle Aghanim 2. The RNG didn't determine this match. It really came down to execution, which is fun to see, and you can see it right there in the times, 10 seconds apart. I mean, that's about as close as you can ask for a race.
I had amazing RNG in Helmazor, and
yes, you did.
Chat, it would have been a goal if I didn't stop for arrows, because I had only 2 after the Mimic room, so I decided to stop, and no drops from the red Mimic, so I decided to stop to grab one. But yeah, otherwise it would have been a gold.
Yeah, your Helmazor was really nice. You had a very friendly Helmazor. He didn't do anything. You had no refill after, which was nice. Swamp Palace really being an issue of struggle for you. Unfortunately, we talked about this going into Swamp Palace, but it's kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts. There's a lot of enemy movement that can get in your way, that can lose you a second in this room, and you had to stop at the end to grab a bunch of hearts and some arrows. Both of you actually making mistakes on Argus at the end. Both of you messing up the second phase, taking 3 spins from g3rd0, and I think did you end up doing 2 spins and not executing the fire rod? I believe
2 spins, but the first one being so slow because missing the fire rod. So plus you have to
he ran off for a bit. Yeah, so actually g3rd0 getting the 0-cycle on phase 1, but then having to do 3 spins, or 3 fire rod shots, 3 spins to kill him at the end, so kind of losing all that time back, plus some. But it was coming down to little things like that, just adding up over the course of the run, that really just made this thing go back and forth. This is one of the best races I've seen in the tournament, outside of, I believe Author Blues was in a race that was down to 1 second, 1 to 2 seconds, something like that. But this was a real close one.
Yeah, and also I was 1 second away in Pod, 1 second away in Thieves, so I had a very good sequence of gameplay here. Yeah, I didn't play that well in Ice Palace. Surprised to be that close to gold in Mire, because I have a few mistakes.
Yeah, both of you executed very well in Mire. I mean, like, not losing any additional hearts, really. I felt like that was a really strong. Both of you getting 0-cycle on Vitreous, which was really solid. So Mire really not even coming into play. Really bold, I thought, Parisian, knowing I figured that you knew that you were behind because you skipped the full magic refill, leaving the roller room. Was that intentional, or do you normally skip that?
I normally skip it.
Oh, okay.
I rely on drops, and otherwise I know that I should have enough, and it's exactly what happened. I just barely enough.
Yeah,
the pokies were nice. I didn't get from the 3 pokies. I got only 2 drops, which is really unlikely.
Yeah, both of you guys executed very well down the stretch. I mean, the chomp rooms were just like you would draw them up, and everything looked really good. Getting real close to a death on Trinex, you made me very nervous there. You made me very nervous at the end.
It's really stupid. I don't know. I unfocused for a little bit, and I didn't look at when Trinex kind of change of state for when to release my sword. So I got hit, and I knew I was really wealthy, so it was okay. But yeah, I got that first hit was really bad, and then the second hit is not normal, because I should just play normally the fight and should be fine. So
sure, but you did clutch it out. You did a great job. 29:01, really solid time. Unfortunately, not enough to let you move on to the top 16, but definitely worthy of it in my opinion. So sorry to see you eliminated. Do you have any last thoughts on the tourney?
Well, about the time, it's another low 129 that I'm keeping on my compilation of low 129s and high 128s. I'd like one day to PB. But
I would like one day to get a 129. So grass is always greener, my friend. You did a great job.
Yeah, I've got so many of them right now, and I'm hoping the best for g3rd0 and everyone else in the tournament. It was a pleasure to be in that tournament.
Awesome.
I had some very solid runs last round and this round, and even against Andy, my run was very nice. I had 3 low 129s in the tourney, so
nice.
Well, I'm happy of my gameplay for races, especially for races.
For sure. I mean, races, you don't get to reset when things go wrong, and you did a great job. Everybody should give Parisian Player a follow. He's a great member of the community. He's always helping other runners out and stuff. He's a great runner, so definitely go give him a follow, twitch.tv/Parisian Player. And, next tournament, right?
Yeah, I'll be there.
g3rd0, what do you have looking forward to the top 16? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty confident. Like, I have gotten mostly 127s in the tournament. Like, this was my worst run, actually. And I think the 127 could be enough to get me in the top 8. Like, it's not going to be easy, no matter who the opponent is going to be.
Sure.
I think they both potential opponents have a 127 PB. So I'm just looking forward to a good race.
Do you think you will practice Moldorm, or are you just going to shake it off to it was a bad run?
I will probably just shake it off. Like, I will always practice a little bit, all the bosses and stuff, but I won't, like, only focus on Moldorm now.
Sure. You should print out a picture of Moldorm and burn it, just for some catharsis, just for some, it could have cost you the race. It didn't. It made the race more entertaining, if that helps. It was right down to the wire and really exciting. So do you have any last thoughts about this race?
Not really, just GG to Parisian, and thanks to you for jumping into the commentary at the last minute.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm happy that I jumped in last minute and ended up seeing an amazing race. So it was really fun to commentate. Definitely, everybody go follow g3rd0. I assume your Twitch is just g3rdo, right?
RD0. Yes.
RD0. I mean. Yeah, so go give g3rd0 a follow. Obviously, very strong runner. This 128.51, one of his worst times in the tournament, which is crazy to me because I can't dream of a 128.51. So great job. I don't know what we have going on next. Can anybody tell me what we have going on next on the Speed Gamings? I'm sure there's something to stick around for. Let's see. I got some notifications here in.
I think ACMLM versus Super Nutella is coming up.
Oh, heck yeah. ACLMLMLMLM is a legend in the Link to the Past community. And then we've also got, what do we got? You saved the day. Moreover, is good commentary. Thanks. That's very sweet. Let me pull up the schedule here. I can tell you who he's facing. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we got ACMLM versus Super Nin Taylor. So that's coming up right now at 8 o'clock. I do not know who's doing commentary. I need to eat some food, so it can't be me. So and I need to emotionally recover from that race. I'm excited. I need like some blood pressure medicine or something. Goodness sakes. ACM and the other guy, says Super Nin Taylor. You know what, Super Nin? You're going to make a name for yourself here in about 5 minutes. I'm ready. So who am I handing this over to? Let's see. But, and again, thanks so much for hopping on the call, g3rd0 and Parisian Player. Really appreciate it. Again, everybody go give them follows. Let me see who I'm handing this off to. Definitely stick around. We got more brackets, more top 16 coming. So let me figure that out. Looking for the plan here. What's the plan, Stan? I think we're looking for a commentator. Unfortunately, I cannot stick around as much as I love all of you. I need to eat, and I need to do some video games of my own, but hopefully we will have somebody hop in and do a little commentary shortly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off the call. I'm handing this off to whoever runs this world. You know, I'm just here on the boat riding along with you all, but I appreciate you all for hanging out. That was a great race. GG's again to Parisian Player and to g3rd0. That was a lot of fun. I'm hopping off the call, and I will see you all later.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past No Major Glitches Tournament. We have got ACMLM versus Super Nintailer. Still had the stream open, could hear my voice, that was awkward. Anyway, I'm a Metatron, joined today by Josh RTA. Today and always.
Yo.
Should be a good race today.
Are you excited for this one?
I am so hyped.
Do you hate yourself for using the word height?
Yep. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of hated that too.
So, Super Nintailer will have his work cut out for him, I think, in this one. He has a 134 PB. ACM is one of the best players in the game with a 125. So, it'll be a tough match for him, but some unexpected things could happen in this game for sure.
Yeah, of course. Deaths to any of the Dark World bosses can really set somebody back quite a lot of time. Most notably, Cold Stare, Helmasaur, Vitreous. Even Blind sometimes can be hard to refight. That doesn't really take a long time to get back to him, but you can definitely get into a death loop with that boss. So, yeah. As we say, anything can happen.
Also, this will be a Canadian battle. Both these winners are Canadian. ACM is French-Canadian. I'm not sure what province Super Nintailer is from.
Oh boy.
Shoutouts Canada.
Shoutouts to Canada. You're the only American here, you're outnumbered.
Yeah, but my money's worth more, so...
Yeah, but our lives are worth more since we have free healthcare.
Wow. That was harsh.
It's the truth, though. Alright, looks like we're getting started here. Probably gonna get a nice little sync going.